I don't want to belittle your point or try to rush you through it, but I do have it scheduled on the agenda. And if it's going to be a long-winded discussion, I would rather wait until we reach that point.
Well, as always, I defer to you.
Well, I'm asking you, can you do this quickly within the allotted 8 minutes that I have scheduled for the public participation piece of the?
Oh, certainly.
Okay. I
All right.
will. We're not going to make a decision now, but I would most certainly hear what you have to say.
Well, all right. Okay. Well, I recently noticed D&E Tree Service trucks and equipment parking beside my property at Fairman and West Roads. So I went down and asked them what they were doing. They said they were going to cut a split tree as ordered by one of you in response to a complaint from the owners of the property across Fairman Road. As I mentioned earlier, I have no objection to cutting this tree. I own the wood and shall retain it for my personal use. It is my understanding of Vermont town government, however, that members of a select board exercise your powers as a group, not as individuals. It is my understanding of Vermont, moreover, that town government respects citizens. When I stated to the D&D Tree Service crew that I had not been notified and that they did not have my permission, they phoned Mr. Walker, who met us there, and told them to leave until proper procedure has been followed at my request, which is why this item is on your agenda this evening. One of you ordered a tree to be cut on my property without notifying your colleagues or me beforehand. It seems to me that you should have done this for your colleagues and me, or for any citizen of Vernon. And as a PS, based upon an official inquiry that was conducted a few years ago, it is my understanding that there is no evidence of town rights-of-way along West Road, west of Psyched Road. And given the decision of the Supreme Court of Vermont in Merritt versus Diallo, stating that Vernon must have both surveyed and officially adopted a road, you might want to look into this.
Well, Mr. Fairman, I can't comment on the last piece about the right-of-ways and the legality that the town has in terms of that, because I haven't researched that. But everything you stated in terms of laws and working together as a select board and all of that is indeed correct. But I must add that there are two sides to every story. And I was approached by a citizen who did inform me of said tree, and I contacted a select board member who approached our tree warden, because that person is the liaison. And in the terms of the discussion, it was brought to my attention that the tree warden had spoken with you, I believe, back in February.
Who was the tree warden?
David.
Uh-huh.
Let me just we're running out of time here.
Sure.
This is a huge just miscommunication again on the part of the town, and I apologize for that. But we were informed that permission was already given, and as long as the wood stayed on your property for you to use after it was cut down, everything would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, the decision was made to hire the tree company to move forward. I should have contacted you personally. I didn't. That's what we're going to rectify tonight, and I apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused you.
Well, that's okay. I thought I would bring it up publicly here as well to make sure that there's no undue misunderstandings in the community at large about what happened. But as I have stated, I have no objection to cutting the tree. And by the way, I didn't even know who the tree warden is. So,
it is David in the highway department. So I really was under the impression that you knew all about it and you were totally for it, and as long as it was cut and the wood was staying on your property, there was no problem, and hence I made the decision to move forward.
Sure. No problem.
Is there anything else? Okay, can we move on to approval of minutes for September 12th? Thank you, Mr. Fairman.
Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't see anything.
There is one correction that I found. I'm going through it again. On page 4, second paragraph down, it says after they need to be involved, period, and then it starts out and/or. It's supposed to say the town. and/or individuals to not be paying.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. O'Donnell?
I move that we approve the Select Board minutes for Monday, September 12th, as corrected.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes for Monday, September 12th as corrected. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Here comes Mr. Ball. Moving on to the chair's remarks. I have no remarks tonight. Would anyone else care to?
I'd like to say something, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Today, we have had another monarch of Borden pass away, Frank Johnson Sr. He was very active in the community. He was my bus driver when I was from first grade to ninth grade, and he will be sorely missed. He worked for the town for many, many years as well.
And did a great job for all
Did a
of
great
us.
job for us, yes, amen.
Thank you for the comments. And our condolences go out to the Johnson family. Okay, we'll move on to People's United Bank, the actuary services presentation. I believe that would be you guys.
It would be.
Where would you like
You
us?
can come on up to the,
You get to sit next to me.
You don't bite, right?
Nope.
Okay, good.
sometimes.
Not real hard, though.
Do have copies of our proposal. Here.
Actually, I didn't see that in here.
It's not, it wasn't present.
Have some extra copies.
Sally, you have a copy?
So I thought I would just start off quickly with an introduction of ourselves, and then, however you'd like to proceed in going over the presentation, or if you have any questions. I'm Wayne Braun from People's United Bank. I've been with the bank for 10 years. I'm a member of the American Society of Pension Professionals and Actuaries, and hold 2 designations with them. As well as being an enrolled agent, I'm able to practice before the IRS on retirement plan issues. And so I manage a portfolio of defined benefit plans, which do include plans for towns and cities around the state of Vermont. And with me is Tracy Braun.
Good evening. I'm an enrolled actuary, a pension actuary, and I've been doing this work for over 30 years, maybe a little bit more than 35 years, and been with the bank since 2004. We originally had a company called National Pension Service, which I owned, and we were acquired by Chittenden Bank, and then subsequently People's acquired Chittenden, so we have been working with them since 2004. And we do all sorts of retirement plans, defined benefit plans for governmental entities. We do private sector plans, 401ks, profit sharing plans, any type of qualified plan we administer at our offices in Burlington.
So I kind of wanted to leave it open-ended as far as if you wanted to go over questions, or you'd like us to give a kind of a general overview of the proposal, or what services we would provide on the plan.
Sally, do you have any?
Well, I was going to suggest that perhaps you describe what you do as actuaries. I don't know that everyone really understands all that's involved with your service, and then perhaps go into what you plan to do for Vernon.
Sure. On most plans we administer, prior to the plan year end, we'll request data from the town, city, or business, information about the participants, new participants, participants that retired, and compensation and hours information. We take that information and we determine the benefits that each participant is owed under the plan. We determine eligibility. We determine vesting. And with those numbers, we come up with a recommended contribution that should be paid into the plan to keep it well-funded. We also take a look at the assets and reconcile the assets, which is a large part of that picture. And with that, we also produce the participant benefit statements that would go out to employees every year. In addition, we also do the GASB financial accounting as well. So that's typically what we'll do. And for the plan, the end product that you will receive is an actuarial evaluation, which will give a synopsis of the plan as of that valuation date. So it'll outline the recommended contributions, how much plan assets the plan currently held as of that date, benefits that are owed to participants, who's eligible, who's vested, that type of information, along with the participant benefit statements. Our services also include the ability for whoever our contact person is to call up if they have questions, if they receive a question from a participant that they don't know the answer to or like our assistance in, they're able to do that. And unlike most actuarial firms, we charge a flat fee for what we propose to do on an annual basis rather than charging per hour. So somebody can call up with a question and we can answer it, and there's not going to be a charge out of that. That's included in our annual fee.
Now, how does this fit in with what we currently have?
It's pretty similar. I think most actuaries do the same, or provide the same kind of services. The difference is, Linda Bourneville Collins, who we had provide our services through Ritchie Consultants, charged pretty much flat fees as well. She did not charge an hourly, so it fits in very well with what we're used to here. And my understanding is, can you tell us how many actuaries there are in the state of Vermont? I know that I had a difficult time the last time that I had to bid for actuarial services. Not very many people do governmental plans.
Right.
And is that still the case?
There used to be an enrolled actuary club, an actuary club for people who practice in the pension arena, and there was 6 of us in the state of Vermont. Of that 6, 4 have retired or moved elsewhere. There's basically 2 of us that I know about in the state of Vermont that actively practice in this arena.
Yeah, so it's very, very limited for municipalities. I think it makes sense for people who have our asset anyway. We have ours managed through Kurt Merrill at People's Bank that now can maybe coincide, and I think that really is a good way to go. I mean, I've reviewed everything. I know Mike, you had some questions.
Did you politely
still
answer
have?
I had asked as far as like the process, as far as, and you probably should elaborate a little bit on that, as far as the process for when you take over an account and what you're going to do, because it's in here, but as far as just to speak briefly on that.
Sure. What we normally do is we request the information either from the town or the prior actuary, and we recreate the last actuarial evaluation. And what this allows us to do is to make sure we understand the methodology that the prior actuary was using, the assumptions that they were using, and the data, so that we usually try to match within a couple percentage points with the valuation results that they got in the prior year. So for you, it would be the 2008 actuarial evaluation was the last one that we have information on here. We would recreate that and then move forward with creating, I think we recommended that we would do the 2010 valuation and propose that we move to annual valuations. And we've recommended that both for producing the GASB numbers, and also there's a lot that happens between the 2-year period that we think is very important to capture. And we've also moved to a annual evaluation for the city of Rutland, which is one of the references that we've given in our proposal.
It'd be interesting to see whether or not you think, based on our sheer numbers, the fact we don't have a whole lot, whether or not you'd still stay with the annual versus the every 2 years.
I think that would depend also on, your demographic and how often that's changing, how many, new entrants you're getting into the plan, people that are coming out of the plan, retiring or terminating. The other big factor is the last valuation that was done was in 2008, prior to the market decline. So between that decline and now, there's been a lot that's happened in the marketplace. And so, what typically happens if the assets go down in the plan, the cost of the plan goes up. So if you had a better picture of that in '09, for example, you'd be able to start funding to help offset that decline. So that would be one of the advantages.
We did, that was looked at, and the recommendation, we had a lot of discussions on that, and I'm kind of surprised that the last one was
I think we
2008.
had it 2010.
Yeah, I think so too.
We did check with Penny Tabor, and she
Yeah.
said she doesn't have any record of one. We do have a letter from the prior actuary that said they were in process, but
Yeah, I know we did, because we talked to Lyndon, that's how we ended up funding, but I'll get that
Why don't
information.
you?
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
I'll look at it too, because I think I have a file on my USB
Because
drive.
we've got we had the paperwork from
Right.
it.
And there was a recommendation, and we basically put in for funding,
We funded
over the last 2 years, yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
We added to the fund, not at the total of the recommendation, because we thought that the market was going to rebound, and had certain individuals not basically fiddle-faddled around with the market, they probably would have rebounded, but.
The other thing also is if in some of our municipalities, they have benefit increases, sometimes there's unions that request a benefit increase, and that's the other reason we like to make sure that the plan is up to date, so before you grant an increase in a benefit, you know the impact on the plan funding before you do it, instead of after, which has happened quite often, actually, after.
Go figure.
do you provide annual statements
Yes.
right now?
Yes.
So they would determine the benefits interim without doing a complete valuation?
Right.
Okay.
And she had moved from every 3 to every 2. So, and her reasoning too was very similar to yours, to move to 1, but hers was to move from 3 to 2, because we used to do it every 3 years. It just wasn't enough.
So Sally, how does the fees and the additional service costs compare to what we were paying?
Well, they are higher. I did ask for one fee, and I have it in my note, but I don't have it right. Which one that was. Wayne, do you remember?
Yeah.
I did ask about our,
You did ask about the retirement benefit calculation, and that fee, I believe, your prior actuary is charging $150 for,
Right.
and we currently charge $200 for the calculation. So that's when somebody retires or terminates or wants to know what their benefit is outside of receiving their participant benefit statement. We would do a calculation to determine that amount. And so we would charge $200 for that, and then $75 for the forms. So if somebody was going to retire and take their money, we would charge $275 for a complete package illustrating all of their options under the plan, all of the necessary paperwork for them to sign it.
And who works with that person? Do you guys, or does Sally, or?
I will work with them.
Typically, how we've done it, and we've tailored it depending on different plans, is we would provide the packet to our plan contact, and that person would forward it on to the person that is retiring. That's typically the way it's done, although we're open to other methods.
And certainly if a participant has questions, and Sally, you don't feel comfortable answering it, you know, that's call, you know,
Call you.
because that's all part of what we do. And with 31 participants or so, you probably don't have a lot of retirements,
We don't,
so that wouldn't come up very often.
no. I did find my notes. I had asked about the one-time transition fee, because we've never transitioned before. And it was originally 12, and Wayne answered that they would be willing to discount that fee to 600, half of the original, so that's very much appreciated. And we are going to need also some revisions, amendments to the original document, and I have worked on those. So I know that needs to be done, and I'm really looking forward to getting that done as soon as that's important. The document, the original document is 1979, and I believe there was one
Really?
amendment, yeah. So we really need to be looking at that too, so.
Governmental plans now have to be amended. They didn't, brought into in line with current law, and before they didn't. They just sort of let governmental plans do their own thing, but now they're getting a little bit more strict with that.
So that's one thing we got.
So what's the review? Is that every year?
No.
Or
It's,
every, like 5?
It's every 5 to 6 years. Governments may be a little bit longer. This is the first time they've asked them to go in to the IRS for a determination letter. So before, they never requested that, but they're looking at everything now more seriously.
Where do we go from now?
Do we need a motion to approve
I think so.
The proposal, yeah.
So basically it is that if you turn to page 12, I would imagine that's pretty much a summary of the proposal as far as the cost for it.
Correct.
So, Mr. Moderator, or Mr. Chairman, I should say, sorry. I'm already looking forward
What
to
meeting
it.
We're
are
on
you
town
at?
meeting,
I'm
eh?
already looking forward to town meeting. Go figure.
the, Mr. Ball?
I move that we accept the proposals from People United Bank for the retirement services dated July 2011 as on page 12 modified from 1,200 to 600. Otherwise, everything else as presented here.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the proposal from People's United Bank on the retirement plan proposal, basically with the figures on page 12, with the exception of the one-time transition fee changing from 1,200 to 600.
Sorry.
What?
Nothing, I wasn't saying anything.
Is there any further discussion?
Speak fire.
It's going to cost.
Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Did you guys drive all the way down from Burlington?
We did.
We did.
1.5 hours.
Wow.
We're going to drive all the way back.
Holy mackerel.
It was a beautiful day for a ride, though.
Yeah.
You're gonna have something to eat, or?
We did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
We have an excellent speakerphone, and so that also, I don't know whether or not when we're live, if you can go onto the web and you can actually pick up, I think you can do that live, and you can actually go on
Streams
your
now.
laptop and stream it, so we can use a speakerphone,
Great.
and you can actually see us when we're having a conversation.
Ah,
So it'll be kind of one way, but at the same time, is you won't have to come down as often as far as driving to have a conversation with us, so.
okay,
Okay.
that's great.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
for
very
making
much.
the journey, and
Drive like.
thank you for.
Safe drive back.
It's
Thank you.
also very timely, since being in the fact is where we're at moving forward and, preparing the budget for next year, the recommendation for town meeting, Mr. Moderator. And, and looking forward to that as far as in putting together a recommendation for the, for that, so. Hopefully you guys will be able to give us some numbers.
So what would be the
What's the date?
target date?
I think
Town
that-
meeting March 1st.
Well, the drop.
We want the budgets in by the end of October, right?
Well, the
Yeah,
bottom
that's
line
right.
is we have to have it by the first week, I believe, in January.
January, yep.
To turn around and get it in for printing.
Okay.
So hopefully before that, so that we can review it. But,
And
Recommended plan contribution you're talking
yeah,
about.
would that be for the 2011?
For 2012, 13. We're in a July 1 fiscal year.
so we can we can basically put a placekeeper in, and probably put like what we had last year. So if it really, dropped dead, we just make the amendment from the floor during the meeting. It would be nice just to have it in writing so people could see it at the time of that. We distribute the annual reports.
Okay. So Sally, we should contact you for what we need?
Yes.
All right, lovely.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Watch for deer on the road. Chris Flint, what's good day about?
I know Sandy was a question mark on whether she would be here or not.
Sandy's upstairs.
All right, then do we want to go out of order and take Sally while she's here?
Yeah, that's Mr. Chair.
Say goodbye.
Miss O'Donnell?
I move that we go out of order and take the treasurer's report first.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to go out of order and take the treasurer's report.
It's okay.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next meeting is Monday, October 1st. September's almost over.
Yeah. It's scary.
It's scary. Imagine.
Were you going to go over that, or was Sandy?
I think she was.
Yeah, Mary Lynn's the
Sandy
chairman.
said she was today.
Well, I came from upstairs, she said she wasn't.
Patty just said she was. Today she indicated that she would be, unless her doctor's appointment ran late.
She's upstairs doing recordings, and she gave me an indication that she might come down.
Well, if she's not here by the 7:15
No,
mark,
she
when
said
she's
if we
supposed
needed
to...
her to call her. She's extension 11.
Oh, you didn't say that.
I did. You didn't listen to me.
I guess I didn't hear that.
I'm used to that.
Did you hear that?
I said we can call her.
You
I didn't
did?
say the extension 11 part. I said I said she's upstairs working. We can call her.
Could you replay that?
Yes,
for
you
us?
did say that.
Thank you, Chris. Chris heard me.
I didn't hear the extension 11.
She didn't say that.
That's right. Besides, Mary Lynn's the chairman of the cemetery.
Well, I apologize, Mary Lynn.
Yes. As corrected, so you got to correct it. Wow. I didn't catch that one. I don't normally miss a trick. Does that one? Did you get my message, by the way, about him taking care of what you had called?
Yes. Thank you. Oh, this is still.
Oh, Mel's here too. There's three.
All right, now we
Slower.
I'll need your telephone number for later.
I wouldn't give you that number if I was you.
I've got her number. Actually, more
Mr.
likely,
Chair?
she has mine.
I'd like to make a motion that we go into executive session on an issue, on a contractual matter, the disclosure of which, can't talk tonight. The
She can't read
disclosure of
either.
which at this time might be detrimental to the town and/or individuals involved.
Can we finish this first?
This is part of it.
I'll second, so we at least have a discussion about it.
I have an issue here that I'd like to bring to the board's attention, and I'm not sure it should be brought into attention in open session. It does have to do with the contract.
And it would be,
Yes, Sally would stay.
we can make it quick.
Friendly amendment with Sally.
You accept that?
Yes?
Okay. So with the friendly amendment, it's been moved and seconded to go into executive session on a contractual matter with the town treasurer, for which, on a matter which the disclosure of at this time may be detrimental to the town and/or the individuals involved. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
It'll only be a minute.
What is it?
You can explain it.
The recording is on, but the DVD is not.
So,
Chip,
just,
the
what do I
warrants
get?
first.
Here, I got it.
Yes. You don't want me
I
to screw
don't
that up.
want to.
How many DVDs has she lost because of?
Don't trust your mic.
She hit me with the wireless, the remote.
Okay, what time are we going, Katrina?
We went in at, I'll tell you just a minute here. You went in at 7:05.
We went into executive session at 7:05, came out at 7:12, no action taken.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. O'Donnell,
I move that we approve warrants as 7SG, accounts payable for $7,250.06, and 37S payroll for $13,172.89.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded to approve warrants 7SG, accounts payable in the amount of $7,250.06, and 37S payroll in the amount of $13,172.89. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
While we have you here, Sally, last week we made a motion to sign the Tri-State Mutual Aid contract, given how much we were able to find out it would cost us to do that, and Todd has since gotten a price of just $50 for a subscription. So I am going to sign that, as well as the rest of the board. And can I just give that to you? or- Okay.
Can you make sure I just get a copy of it in the box? Thank you.
And then finally, we will have the final approval of the transitional return to work policy, or the amendments that were made to the transitional return to work policy.
Did you all get the email? Okay. And you did also get the disability piece that I sent, whether
Yes.
probably should be actually left out now.
If they
Sign
did, there's a
off.
copy in
I
the
thought
packet.
it'd be small.
Based on reading that, I agree with you that we should not change any of that. I don't know what the rest of the board feels.
No, I agree, definitely.
I'm sorry, I missed the first part.
Not change that.
She got, remember we discussed having...
Right, we had that conversation. I'm good.
Okay.
Just leaving it the way it is with the exception of the signature.
And my little squished was
I
better.
I think it's,
So we're,
it
Yeah, it's
did,
a
it
little-
looks great,
Called
thank you.
Appendix A, and there, and I did add a signature line for the purpose of the policy, for them, for the select board to sign it.
Oh, good, right, because I don't have that one.
Yeah, so I
Okay,
can attach it to the
excellent.
policy.
Good.
Okay,
Oh, good.
so is everyone okay with the amended?
Need a motion?
To accept Appendix A.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Howe?
I move that we accept the traditional return to work policy as it is.
As amended,
As,
transitional.
what'd I say?
tradition.
Oh, well, because I'm thinking of a traditional, supper or something.
Finish your motion.
Transitional. Sorry about that. As amended.
Okay.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the transitional return to work policy as amended. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye. I was reading it.
Thank you, Sally.
It was.
Thank you.
And I'll figure out what to do with this.
Yeah.
On to the cemetery committee.
Well, Sandy had said that we could call and she'd come downstairs if we wanted her to, but she said that.
Okay. I'm truly sorry. I thought I was waiting for Sandy. In the last email I got, she said she'd be here.
Well, I think she was, but then,
She was upstairs. She said that.
she just said before I just came down.
Okay, so we have cemetery regulations. Now, I read over the regulations, but I didn't have any regulations I could compare them to in the
Oh, you
past.
don't have copies?
So I don't know how different they are.
There's not much difference.
There's not. We found that, I think we just cleaned them up a little bit and we have found that people are putting things in the cemetery that aren't really respectful, at least in our viewpoint. Bird feeders, I mean, not that they're not respectful, but bird feeders and stuff attract a lot more birds, and we had other people complaining about
Yeah.
Bird poop, yeah.
yeah, so, and that type of stuff, so we made sure that was in here. I don't think there was much other change.
So
was there?
as the cemetery committee would be the enforcers of this, or would the people who do the actual maintenance to the cemetery enforce these codes, or?
Yes. We usually ask the caretaker if when he's in there, if there's like artificial flowers that are all falling apart and no longer have any color left to him when he's doing his, we've asked him to clean that up and to throw those away. But we all kind of have cemeteries that we
Those are new.
oversee and kind of do walkthroughs of those and take care of a lot of that stuff. So it's kind of a combination.
I don't have any questions or concerns.
The, on the second page, if you take a look at the last two above 11, those two paragraphs are nearly identical, with the exception of the fact is that it added benches into it, so the second to the last one should be
Oh.
removed.
Yep.
The town reserves the rights to remove the same. It talks about in the first paragraph, it seems like that's redundant for, it's supposed to be like reinforcing the fact, but it's
Yes.
also already stated in the first paragraph on that page.
I think that's all it is, just to pronounce it a little bit louder,
Yeah.
you know.
So I guess is that, I would have probably put the town reserves the rights to remove the same, remove the rights to remove any of the disallowed items and put that as the last thing in that section. So I think I don't have any problems with as long as the second to the last paragraph is deleted, and then.
Right, because it is redundant.
Except benches aren't mentioned in the first paragraph.
Right, that's why
Right,
I would leave the
otherwise it's
second
the
one.
So keep the second one,
Same.
keep the
First one.
Yeah. So,
Okay. We can do that.
so from there is that, and then it would be basically, we could approve it as amended, and then it would be put on archival paper, and then it would be upstairs for us to sign later on.
Yep. And Sandy gives these out with every,
I think in the to be signed, did you see something in the to be signed folder? I think the last signature page is already there.
No, this is the transition.
That's it, okay. And she
That's all I have.
and she was gonna keep it up in the office.
okay, I'll get
She
with her.
always does.
Yeah. I'll let her
And
know.
I made, there was some typos in there, and I made those changes today and
Yeah.
gave the corrected copy to
Yeah.
Sandy, so she has those.
Oh, that should take care of it. All right, I will have her take that out and
So,
leave it for you.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Howe.
I move that we accept the cemetery regulations with those few corrections.
Second.
On the second page.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the cemetery regulations as amended. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Now, the other thing that Sandy mentioned was the bids. And I see that the second half of the cemetery policy was a agreement for the caretaker with a list of tasks.
Right, the Schedule A and the
Yep.
agreement.
Are you gonna put that in like an RFP and put that in the newspaper, or send it to whom you always send it to, or?
We'll put it in the newspaper, that's what
Okay.
we've done in the past.
Okay. And will that,
And that's what this, it'll have, oh, she didn't do that. She emailed it to us. It did have the bid proposal.
Okay, I didn't get a bid proposal,
No,
I just got the agreement. So as long as you guys are on that same page,
Yeah.
Pretty much, you didn't have to bring.
I didn't get that either, no.
I thought I brought it. Guess I
I didn't,
didn't.
I didn't. The bid proposal has in there, pretty much the same, a lot of course, the areas, that it has in the Schedule A. It has, no, it is in here too. It has the mowing requirements. It pretty much has all that in the, just worded a little bit differently,
okay,
but it has
all
all
right,
those
as long as
Everything's in there.
it's officially been done according to bid policy procedures,
Yeah.
that's
All
wonderful,
right,
that's
I'll
all
have
I
her
was
put it
asking.
out. Yeah,
Okay, well, thank you.
okay.
Thank you, Mary Lynn.
All right, we can skip forward to the unfinished business of the Tyler Cemetery fence.
Nancy's not here yet? Okay, Nancy's not here yet. She has the proposal. Yeah, because it was on for some.
You want to go back to the personnel issue then?
Yeah. Okay, see what she gets here.
Do you want me to make a motion?
Yes. Sally?
So personnel matter,
We're gonna go into
You want
executive session.
Sally? She was.
Yes,
okay.
please.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. O'Donnell?
I move that we go into executive session with Sally on a personnel matter, the disclosure of which at this time might be detrimental to the town and/or individuals involved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to go into an executive session with Sally Brassor, personnel, on a personnel matter for which the disclosure of at this time may be detrimental to the town and/or the individuals involved. Is there any discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
televised. Oh, gee. I'd be sick to my stomach.
Katrina? What time we come in?
Did somebody just turn the sound on?
I did.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it was off. It was off. The DVD's going again? Okay. We went into executive session at 7:24, came out at 7:33, no action taken.
Just here, check that for me, please. Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Ball.
I move that we accept the department head's recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the department head's recommendation. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're back to the Tyler Cemetery fence.
Act two.
Act 2.
Act 2, yeah.
Well, I have been asked to speak on behalf of both the Vernon historians and the cemetery committee, talking about the replacement of the fence. We have become involved because the historians, and that fence has been down there for 171 years or better as a white picket fence. We also looked at the situation from another angle. And one of the angles that we looked at was the preservation of the headstones and the grave sites that are really, really close to the road. And we looked at them from the perspective that the fence helps protect those in the sense of the snow that accumulates in the winter. There's been some suggestion that perhaps a metal fence might be more appropriate, or a replacement for maintenance issues. And so we did look at a metal fence. The metal manufacturer stated that because of the snow load that will be going against it, it just wouldn't hold up. One of the other things to consider, too, that we looked at as far as the metal fence is that the metal fence comes in sections. And should the fence need to be replaced at some point in time, you've got to replace the whole section because you just can't buy incremental pieces of the fence. And over the years, styles may change, and that may not be available again. So we looked at the capital plan for the town of Vernon, and it's pretty specific. If you look at the capital plan where it says Tyler Cemetery picket fence. So that's kind of the process that we arrived at, in investigating this whole fence situation. Now, we also talked to a fellow from the Vermont Old Cemetery Fence Association, and he came out and looked at it, and like us, he also agreed that one of the paramount concerns would be protecting the gravestones and the grave sites. If you look at it on the north end of that, I mean, they're within a couple of feet of the fence. So, in looking at this whole situation, we actually had Wayside Fence come down. I met with them, and we've talked to them numerous times over the thing to try to develop a set of specs that would hold up better than what's there now. What we have now are 6x6 posts in the ground with metal brackets. And Wayside suggested that if we doweled the new sections into the 6x6s, they would hold up much better. The 2x4s that are on there now weren't carefully selected for knots, and they've broken. You'll notice it in some pretty tough shape in some places. So what we did is we went through the Wayside and arrived at just a sort of a list of specifications that would really hold up, in the long run. So what we said, everything would be pressure treated. The 6x6 posts that now hold up the gates would be replaced with something that were into the ground at least another foot more than what they are now. Any of the posts that are kind of wobbly as they are would be either investigated to find out if they need to be a little bit deeper or what's making them, but to stiffen them up a little bit. The gates are a concern for us. Right now, they're a wood frame. Wayside suggested that we take a galvanized metal frame for the gate, and then take some stainless bolts and bolt a 2x4 top and bottom and attach the pickets to that. So this is what we had proposed to do, to present to you guys as a solution to getting that fence in good working order down there. Now Nancy and I have worked on this, or Nancy's worked on it a lot, and I've put a lot of time into it too, but we would like to propose to the select board, if we could, and that's certainly your purview to vote it up or down, to circumvent or waive the bid policy, to give the job to Wayside. We don't have a number from them yet, but Wayside has done a number of jobs for the town, and I'm certainly, and probably in all fairness, your question is going to be how much is it, and where does it fall within the numbers, and that would be a fair question to ask. But Wayside, has done several jobs. They've done the ball field, they've done the pool, and apparently they've been pretty fair in their pricing. But I guess my first question would be, is that something you guys would entertain and consider?
To waive the bid process?
Or to go with your plan?
Pardon me?
Is the question you're asking to waive the bid process or to go with Wayside provided?
Right.
No, which one?
I'm
Is there a
sorry?
difference?
He's
Do
asking
you
how
want to
to
waive the bid process, or do you want to
Wayside.
just pursue skipping the wrought iron fence and going with the,
Correct.
And hiring Wayside.
He wants to do both.
okay, well, I would kind of like to know how much it is before
Well,
we
and I
decide
think that's
to
a
waive
fair
the bid
question,
process.
If Wayside, let me put it this way, I don't really know, what does the town report say that we have for allocated?
50,000.
Okay.
Well, the original bids, when we talked about replacing the fence, came in anywhere from like 5,000 to 18,000.
25.
Okay, 25. And then the wrought iron that the finance committee looked at was up into like 35,000, I believe.
Something like that.
So, if we can come to a reasonable medium,
Yeah, but at the same time is that, the bid policy specifically provides for the conditions for which the policy can be waived, and the bid requirement can be waived, the competitive bid process can be waived. And if you read that, do you think that we can do that? Because to me, it doesn't sound like we have the wherewithal and the justification right now to.
Well, I do
that.
happen to have a copy of that bid policy, and as far as waiving it, and it's pretty clear, Mike, The Vernon Selectboard may waive the bid process or approve a sole or dual source solicitation for major purchases when they deem to be in the best interest of the town.
Right.
Now, I have no axe to grind or curry favor with I don't own any stock in Wayside Fence. But what I'm saying to you is, they've had very good rapport with the town. They've done a ton of work with us out there investigating this thing. This is certainly entirely up to you guys. Now, and right now, we're talking about something, we don't have a number. So I guess when we get a number back from Wayside and we see where it falls within, the monies that are in the town capital plan, but I'm just asking at this point in time, would you consider it, in that sense, or are we gonna go and put it out to bid? And then, who do we select? Do we put it out and publish it for every, fence company around? This isn't something that, Joe Handyman's gonna do it. I mean, they got very specific equipment that's gonna be needed to weld up gates, to dowel this fence in. I mean, these guys have done well with the town so far.
I think they have the capability that they could get it in this year too.
Well, we did.
If we don't wait too long, if we put it out to bid and now we're getting to the end of the year and it's not gonna happen.
I'd like to see as far as what they come back with the price so that we can comparison not only to what's in the fund, because they could come in at $49,999. Well, I'd like to see us compared to where the other bids had come in before, and if it's reasonable in regards to those bids, as well as coming in underneath the 50,000, then I wouldn't have a problem with it.
What would you consider though, Mike, in the sense of, comparing, apples to apples in that sense right there? We know Wayside is gonna write out a very specific, we have worked with them to develop a very set of specific specifications. How do we compare that to the other fence companies, whether they're gonna dowel it in or what they're gonna do?
I think it's until we see the number, I think it's not reasonable to ask for approval.
Okay. Now, there are a couple of caveats with this right here. Wayside, the town, is gonna be responsible for disposing of the fence. Now, the point being is that there are probably a lot of places that they're gonna take down the fence because obviously they wanna keep the 6x6s as intact as they can, not just somebody go in there with a hammer and start smashing things to pieces. But we own the responsibility of either putting it out on Craigslist or whatever, just to give the stuff away.
We've had a couple people offer to buy it.
Right. So there's that. Because this is gonna be all pressure treated, we really are not gonna be able to do anything as far as staining or painting this for a year until the pressure treating, which is pretty common practice. But, so the painting is not gonna be in their price. So these two things, just putting it out on the table to know exactly where we are with that. Now, when we get to the end of the road here, decide who's gonna do the fence and how it's gonna be, you guys know I have some experience in the building industry, and I'd be willing to sort of oversee this project and make sure whomever gets the job, the right materials are used, and just the construction process, is fair and meets whatever specs that we have in there. On a volunteer basis, I'm not, looking to do that. But, so I guess what I'm hearing you say is, let's see what Wayside's number is. Let's see how their list is written out. Then we'll come back to you and say, okay, do we have anything, I guess maybe it's a fair question to ask Mike, do we have anything that states what the other companies are, what they're providing for the monies? I mean, to be fair about it,
We do, but none of them, if we put in welding gates and doweling
None of them had that in.
things, I don't think any of those have the capability.
But
They
They
maybe
weren't
know
companies
how,
either.
but I don't think they have the
One of them
capability
does.
of doing that.
And it wasn't in their specs.
No, it
So
wasn't.
whatever
Right, and
we
it
were
wasn't
given
in
as
their-
a cost, that was not in their
could
specs.
Right,
we
so it's-
use the Wayside spec that is provided by them, just scratch out the name and submit that to the people who gave us bids before and see if they could be comparable to that, or could we use the Wayside spec to make an RFP to distribute?
I think the problem with that is some of the,
Time.
plus some of the bidders it was more, like Dale said, handyman type projects. They weren't fence companies, and there's a difference in the way the fence company's gonna put the fence in. But I think, first of all, we have to get back to the issue of wooden fence, because that had changed a lot in the conversations. And I have to say, my concern is that, number one, we have a good quality fence that's gonna last for a lot of years, and done by a reputable company that's got a good reputation. I don't have relatives buried in that cemetery, and it certainly has been obvious that there are a lot of people in this community that do, and that is very important to them. I had stopped in the middle of this 9/11 process. I had stopped at the historical school to see if some of the people that were on the committee were there, because I had a question, and there was this nice couple from, originally, she grew up in Vernon, and they were they were volunteering their time hostessing at the school at that day, and we kind of got into a conversation about the fence, and, she said, my husband and I both have land there, which cracks me up when people say I have land there. And part of the reason why they wanted to be in that cemetery was because of that fence, and they have family members that are in that cemetery because of that fence, and I think if it's that important to people, then we need to go back to the wooden fence and deal with the issue from there.
I never really thought
That's what it says in
we had
Yeah.
moved away from the picket fence. In an official capacity, it came up in conversation, and we said, take a look at, with the financial committee, but we never moved away from officially moved away from the picket
I hadn't
fence.
thought we had either, but certainly the perception was out there, so I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that, certainly we support a picket fence as long, but we want a good quality picket fence because we don't want to have to be doing this again in 5 years.
Right. I don't have a problem with that. I think what having a number is that the biggest thing is knowing where that number comes in, and knowing in the fact is if people want to buy the fence, is that all coupled together on this project, when we take a look at the final number, we can then say is, something, we're going to be able to paint this fence, just hold over the monies at town meeting. We're going to hold those monies over, and then we're going to complete it after a year or a year and a half after the fence is installed. That's when we're going to paint the fence, and then we'll close out that line item in the capital plan. So if you turn around and say is that it still comes in and we can do the painting and everything can still be done, I guess I would be okay with that. But I just want to see.
Let me ask you this question here for Mike. Would it be a fair thing to ask at this point in time, let's see where Wayside numbers comes in. Come back to you guys, and if the number seems to be reasonable within, the parameters of this, is it really worth our time or worth their time to go out there and to save, to go out there and put it out on the street? Not their number, but all the specs and the time it's going to take to try to get this thing done. Probably the defining moment, at least for me and probably for you guys, is going to be where's the number fit, depending on, where the budget, where the line item is in there. And then because we do have, consideration of disposal and consideration of painting, in a year or so to when this pressure treated, weather's out. So would that be the next step as far as you guys are concerned, to say, let's look at the number and get a very definitive, drawn out, excuse me, get a very definitive drawn out set of specs of what they're going to do, what they're using for material, because we've talked about it, but we haven't seen it in writing just yet. All number 1 grade pressure treated for all the pickets. Selected number 2 for the 6x6s that have to be replaced. All stainless steel fasteners on all the nails and bolts and everything else that are going to be used there, so that you know exactly what you're getting for the bounce you're going to get for your money.
Technically, that has to happen before we can approve the project.
True.
Under the capital plan.
True. But I guess in this meeting tonight here, hearing from, from all of us here, if everything seems to be reasonable and fair and within the parameters of what the budgetary, is, you guys would entertain the idea of voting on the Wayside?
I would too.
I would.
Yeah.
It's just hard for us to sit here tonight and say,
Understood.
okay, take a
Absolutely.
Yeah,
blank
go with-
check.
yeah.
Because, anybody in business knows, knowing you get into a bid process makes you sharpen the
No, I
pencil too.
understand.
Chris?
I just wanted to add a little bit to the picket fence. Was the guy that came down from VOCA, he did say that the white picket fence had held up extremely well in the elements, and it would be cheaper in the long run to go this way, because if you needed to replace a picket, then you need to replace a picket, and it's not very expensive, as Dale had said that the metal come in a section, you'd have to replace that whole metal section, that's all. I just wanted to add to that, make
Mr.
sure that.
Chairman, I move that we accept the recommendation from the Cemetery Commission and from the historians to basically move forward with a white picket fence for the cemetery.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to move forward based on the recommendation of the cemetery committee and the historians with a white picket fence at the Tyler Cemetery. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Now, is that, in the case of, for the capital plan, is the next step would be to develop the specification, then send it to us for review, so that we can review it, as well as the number, if you can. And that way, that it can be basically considered at the next meeting. That's my recommendation would be.
Can I ask a question? Can you review that number without making it public?
because if you end up going the bid
Send
process,
it
it
to
won't be
the-
fair to Wayside.
Send it to
have
the
their
chairman
number.
only then.
I don't know, I'm asking, is it?
It can't go.
Send it to the chairman only.
Okay. Okay.
And I think that's a fair question to ask, because, you know, if in fact somehow it does have to go out, you know, somehow you're gonna give the other guys a leg up.
Right.
you
Right.
know.
Right.
Wayside invested a lot of time, and, but, you know, but
Yes,
to be fair.
be not fair.
So, tell me, so where we're at now, we need to get a very clear set of specs of what they're gonna provide and the number to you, Mike.
Yes,
Email or
either's
hard copy,
fine.
or what do you want?
Either's fine.
Okay.
And then you guys need to talk about and review about it, you know, and then come up with a recommendation. We're either gonna say, okay, we're gonna award Wayside Fence, or we're gonna go out to bid. Would that be fair? Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Would that come up at your next select board meeting?
Depends on when you get me the numbers.
They're gonna have it ready.
Our next meeting is October 3rd, so it could very easily be put on that, well,
She just
that's
said
2
that
weeks.
Nancy just answered your
They said
question.
they'd have it to us tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Then, yeah, we can make that a topic for the next meeting.
You guys have any other questions?
Patty?
If we get the bid and approve it at next meeting, can they still put that fence in before winter?
Yes.
They said if they got an answer within 2 or 3 weeks, they'd start it.
So we made a decision that Monday night they'd be all set.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, is it a fair thing to ask you guys, you've been happy with their performance, you know, on the other projects in town?
Yeah,
I've heard nothing.
nothing but good about
That's
them.
right.
They've got a great reputation.
They employ some local people too.
Mm-hmm.
Seth said he'd give you a recommendation if you wanted to.
I think they're pretty well-known.
Does anybody else want to add anything to this?
Has the highway ever used it?
Yes, we're all set?
I do. If you get all the specs from Wayside, you're gonna review them. Then you're gonna put it out to bid, you're gonna make a decision whether you put it out to bid. Is that fair to Wayside?
I think, maybe let me
We haven't
see if
got
I
that
can
far
interpret
yet.
this.
No.
Yeah, we haven't.
That's not what we're saying we're gonna do. What we're saying is that we have worked with Wayside to develop exactly what's gonna be the best process to put that fence back together.
Mm-hmm.
Wayside is gonna submit a number in very detailed specs on exactly what they're gonna provide for that money.
Mm-hmm.
The select board is gonna look at what that final number is and what the specs are relative to what the money that's in the capital plan. If they feel that that's a reasonable number for what they're gonna get, they're gonna award the bid to Wayside.
Okay, but if it's not reasonable, you're gonna take Wayside specs and put it out to bid with
We-
those specs?
We haven't come to that conclusion yet. We need to see what the numbers are. There's just too many factors that are being put into play here for us to make a decision what we're gonna do without knowing those numbers yet.
So Wayside, in reality, would have a second chance to alter their pricing?
Well,
Nobody would
no.
see their pricing.
Nobody
No,
would.
I know you're not making
Well,
a
you mean if
decision.
if the specs changed, then they would have, yes.
Well, I'm a little confused here
Or is-
because,
Are Wayside, the numbers that Wayside gives you guys, hopefully for the meeting next time, was that their final number?
That'll
or
be
if
their
the
number.
project
They're not
goes
gonna
out for
change
bid,
their
That will be
they'll
their
change it.
final
that's their number.
Right.
Because that number was arrived at by, you know, using the products that we all talked about. Now, if it has to go out to bid somewhere along the way that we just feel like, or the select board feels that this isn't sustainable, then what they will do is we'll just take Wayside specs. And honestly, I've had this conversation with Wayside, and they have no objection to it because they understand how the bidding process works. They also understand that we're not gonna publish their number on the street, and that's why Mike is the only person who will see the number. So that they're fair and reasonable, they just want to be bidding with like-minded people that have the, you know, the technical expertise and the ability to provide that kind of, you know, quality service that they can. That's their only concern. I mean, honestly, you know, not to push anybody under the bus, but
That's
Yeah,
my
I
question.
think that number
Is that
becomes-
their
that
bid
is their
number?
bid
Do they
number.
get a second chance?
All right.
I
they don't need a second chance.
Okay.
That's their number.
Okay.
Right.
So,
So we're all set with that?
yeah.
All right, thank you, cemetery committee, historians, Gassets,
Thank you,
everyone.
thank you. Thank you.
Have a lovely evening.
All right, we're up to pending litigation.
That's what David
We'll need the highway department, or just David. And do you have that letter?
I did bring it.
Thank you. Mr. Ball.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we go into an executive session with David Walker on a contractual matter, the disclosure of which at this time might be detrimental to the town and/or individual and companies involved.
Second.
Is it contractual?
No, it's not. It's
You
pending
don't think it's
litigation.
contractual?
No.
All right, then I take a friendly amendment to
Pending litigation.
Thank you.
And
Second.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
We will go into, a motion's been made and seconded to go into executive session with David Walker, Highway Commissioner, on a matter of pending litigation, which the disclosure of at this time may be detrimental to the town and/or the individuals involved. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
It is 7:59.
Barbara Mosley, so.
I didn't touch it. That's why it flipped.
Yep.
It did, it did,
It must have took a surge.
It must have, because it shut it totally off.
We saw the whole screen flicker on and off.
yes.
Yeah, well, I think so.
You should be able to record more
I should
because you
just be able
haven't
to hit record, right?
finalized.
It's loading right now, so hang in there with me for a minute.
That's weird. Do you have to go and find where it ended because of the fact is that it totally shut down?
Shouldn't have to.
No,
It
because we went into
stopped it,
executive
and then
session
You'll
and-
see like on the screen when we go to finalize it, you'll see two little
Right.
sections.
Because we've stopped it before in the
Yeah.
middle and it just starts
There we go.
after
Recording
Well,
again.
stopped or turned it off?
stopped.
Yeah, because this turned off.
I think it will be fine.
Well, hope you got good notes.
I think so.
Where's the
I've done it
recorder?
with worse recordings.
Where's that little recorder?
I have that. It's,
But you don't
it's actually
keep it.
full. We gotta figure out how to get things.
But
off.
I bet you we could record a stream.
I can't get stuff off of it.
Really?
Yeah, we probably can because of the live function. We can drop that down and DVR it. Yeah. Did you?
What was that?
Because of the new function on demand function on the website for
Yeah.
BCTV,
We could
We
watch
probably
it from
can-
VCTV and record it from there as well.
and DVR it on your home so that you can basically go back, or on your computer, and record it on the computer, so that you can then basically have a document.
Or just record it on your VCR.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
I'll show you that.
Okay.
All right, we went into executive session at 7:59, came out at 8:14, no action taken. We're on to the computer and the town newspaper. There were discussions a while back about Katrina using the town newspaper's computer in an effort to save money from having to purchase a new computer for the select board secretary.
Well, before, there wasn't gonna be any more newspaper. I had put in the newspaper's budget, $1,800 for a new computer for, newspaper. And Katrina was going to take the old one. But before I say that the paper is no more, I also would like to maybe suggest something, because I've already had many, many people call and say that they really like the paper, and please consider coming back, and, the thing is that, it takes me several days to do the paper, and with all involved. But maybe a quarterly, and maybe putting it out to print somewhere else. I was thinking that maybe a quarterly, if we could print it out somewhere else, I think that would save the town money too, because to print it, it takes 2 big cases of paper, and there's how many reams? Maybe 8 reams of paper within that one box. That's only maybe $60 for the
But
box.
let me just say this, in having to have somebody like Staples do the flyers that I put in the paper about recycling and composting.
Yeah.
That costs anywhere from $1,200 to $1,400 for a single page flyer.
No. Well, I'll tell you, the thing is that the cartridges that I use,
They're
I use 3 of them.
That's about close to $1,000 probably.
Yes.
It's a lot cheaper to have it printed.
But you know what? Also, the
And what you get to at Staples isn't printing, that's photocopying, and that's expensive.
and Reformer
That's
had
true.
once, the Reformer had once offered as well. I mean, I haven't investigated any of it, so I don't know prices or anything.
Well,
But
The question is, Katrina needs a
Katrina's,
computer.
yeah, she does. So I'm
My hard
thinking,
drive crashed on my laptop, and so rather than, I don't really want to go out and buy another laptop, I'm renting this one so that I can use it for the select board's stuff rather than my actual family home computer.
so, I mean, why couldn't we just give her that one, and then if the newspaper does, I mean, if the select board can figure out some way to do that with the newspaper, maybe, a reasonable, cheap one even, to save the town money, because I use the jump drive, I mean a thumb drive, I call it a jump drive. Thumb drive for at home, I use my own computer. All I need is something to plug into the printer, you know, because I still use the thumb drive.
But at the same time, it's, I'm
Or
not
give
sure
her
that-
the,
but it seems to me like, you know, it would be a lot more appropriate for you to have a laptop simply because, you know, it's gonna be a lot more versatile than that machine down here. And the fact is.
It is, I didn't want to cost you any, you know, I didn't want to cost you any money.
but you can get some really nice,
For relatively
Yes.
inexpensive.
They're not super expensive, but in the interest of not spending any town money, if that one was not gonna be used, I could take Microsoft Publishing off of there, put Word on there, and, you know, make it work, and we can utilize it and make it work, you know.
But if you take the publishing off there.
Then I
Then-
can't use it.
Right, and we can't put both on, it's
Right.
not big enough to put both on there.
Really?
Yeah.
well,
She's
it's
having-
also, there's problems with that one. That's why I put in for a new computer,
Right.
because this,
Yeah,
remember I told you about
the
it,
computer
well,
guy's not working on that one.
well, he is, but he can't get it to update either.
Well,
So, I mean,
The other
you know,
nice
the
thing-
security updates and, you know, the cumulative updates and stuff like that's not doing it.
Where would we take, you know, say if we were going to buy a $450 laptop, where would the funds come from?
Newspaper, I have the 1,800 in there.
She was suggesting taking it from what
the-
she had
Right,
set aside for the
for a new
for the
newspaper.
new one, because she was gonna at one point buy a new one. So what she's saying is she would keep the old one for now.
Yeah, because
and
all
then
I
buy
needed
the
is to
laptop.
stream it into the printer so I can use that one. This is, you know, I
Right.
mean, it's just that it wouldn't update, it wouldn't do anything, and I have the program or the software for Publisher 10, but I can't put it on that because it won't accept it. So that's why, you know, I mean, and I'm looking for a laptop, so, I mean, I've been pricing them and, you know,
Because 11 by, the 17-inch laptop, a lot of people call it a portable PC. My wife's got one. It's a 17-inch monitor. The thing is easy to read, it's usable, I mean, and you
The
can get
Acer
those for
makes-
$4.99, you know, with Intel, and, you know, an up-to-date, there's all
no
The-
office stuff.
yeah.
I
But,
have
that-
Office, though.
and I have several office
I have
ones
Office.
myself, you could use
Yeah,
mine.
So I
But
just tend to think
again,
it's like-
you know, if that one wasn't gonna be used, you know, we
Yeah,
were
but you
gonna
can't,
move
I
it
mean, it's
over.
convenient for you to have a laptop here right at the meeting.
It is.
You can't do that.
We were gonna move that one over here, but
Yeah.
we'd have to cut the cable because it's secured to the desk.
And if you get her a
And then you'll be
laptop
sitting
with it,
there
you
all
still
night
have enough to
like
buy
this,
a,
trying to
you know,
hear what
a
people are
PC
saying. I don't know how convenient that is.
cheap
Right.
PC tower for that in there, still
At the
left
same
over
time
if
as
we
you-
have to.
You can turn around and use that monitor and plug it into a laptop, so you have a big monitor.
Oh, yeah, because yes,
But then
definitely.
use that for, you know,
Yeah,
So you
'cause
could
all I gotta
print.
do is stream it into that
You
printer.
could bring your laptop here.
Yep, I can. I can do it all, I really can. So to help her, I don't, you know, I'm okay as far as if we go back with the paper. Because I have my own laptop, I have, you know. So,
I would think it would be in our best interest that she research a laptop.
Get us some quotes.
Okay.
We'll find some funding for the next meeting.
Yeah, I'd really like to get away from having this thumb drive storing all the town's documents. I'd really like to place it somewhere where it's the town's. And like I said, I don't care if that's a laptop or if it's a desktop, but I'm carrying around this thumb drive.
Well, next year,
That
when we
has a lot
have
of
new
information
monies,
on
we
it,
should
and I don't
consider a hard drive as well,
Yeah,
an external.
and whatever we have,
we do have
some
the
needs to
extra
back up.
in the newspaper, and
to be able to
we
back
can
up
use
that.
that.
You have an external hard drive?
You get,
Huh?
You have an external?
I have one on my own
No,
computer.
but at the
No.
computer,
No, for her.
I'm not real good
Oh,
with
Yeah, and those are
computers
$60,
and
$70,
laptops.
and she
Yeah.
can download
Some
everything onto the hard drive, definitely.
All
Yeah.
town stuff.
Yeah.
I could
Okay.
get prices, I could go
You
to
know what I
Staples
do?
and, or I could go to
Yeah,
Dell,
we
or
can
I could
move
go
on.
anywhere, but.
So let's
personally,
move.
what I like to do is is to go to Consumer Reports,
Yeah,
and the town has an account, so you can get the password from the library. Go on and then take a look, and as far as what they recommend for the
okay.
different size and the capabilities, and then from there is go get some quotes for what that would
Okay.
cost. And that's what I did for Julie a couple years for Christmas, and she loves her, HP, so.
So you'll get some research, and I'll talk
that
to
was
Sally about finding some
Pre-advertisement
funding.
for Hewlett Packard, huh?
Well, they also recommend, there's a number of them they recommend that aren't
It
just
also
HP.
depends on
What you need it for.
Right. So finally, we have the tree on Fairman Road. And we started this discussion a little bit earlier, and David, you missed the part of the discussion where I just talked about communications, and we thought that he had already known about it and so forth, and he does give his blessing to move forward, so I'd like to hear a motion to have the tree warden back in charge to take care of the problem tree on Fairman Road. And I guess it was part of the request that the felled wood remained the property owners.
He also requested that a letter be written from the select board, am I correct?
Katrina, can you take care of that?
I will.
Do you want a motion?
Yes.
Okay. So moved.
Second.
She's got it
So
all.
seconded.
I want to repeat it all, I forget it. She's already been typing all that out.
It's been moved and seconded that
We put David
David
back in
Tree
will
charge
warden.
the
as.
tree warden, take care of the tree on Fairman Road.
and Katrina will send a letter from the select board stating that.
In a copy of the minutes too.
I will, yeah.
Okay.
And who seconded it?
Me.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion?
No, well,
Aye.
actually, the only thing that I don't
I'm
like, the only thing I don't like is that we have people who come in and complain and ask for special, it's like the tree program, if you look at state law, is a tree warden program is established, and we have all these different documents. It's like, all we need to do is point to the document and say, this is how we're gonna handle it. That's it. And, we can't, if we continue to basically make special dispensations for individuals because they talk really loud, then it's.
Yep, I agree.
We waste a lot of time.
Also, I was thinking, Mr. Chairman, if we, and it's just, a discussion in the middle of it, if, could we maybe, because we have the old minutes that state that the select board at the time in 2000, whatever, 2002, had stated that the road commissioner is to notify landowner when work would be done in the right-of-way as a courtesy gesture. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean trees, that means any work. But might I suggest that the road commissioner and/or tree warden gives the landowner, a letter stating that this is the work that's going to be done, and you have 2 weeks to get a hold of me, otherwise on this certain day it's coming down or we're doing the work.
Well, I mean, that works for a tree, but if it's an emergency culvert work
Yeah,
that
that's true.
needs to happen, you couldn't do that. I mean, you've got to do what you got to do, and I think you guys probably do your best to notify the landowner that, look, this is what's going on, this is what we have to do. And I also think you and I discussed this earlier, that the functions of the road commissioner and the tree warden are clearly outlined in the statutes.
On the other flip side of that is that David only has so much time on his hands. If he has to start writing letters to everybody and making sure they get the letters, and, he knocks on people's doors and says, this is what I'm gonna do, and it's been enough for a lot of years, so I think it works well.
And if he doesn't do it rapidly enough, we have a storm, and next thing you know, if he hasn't cleared the culvert, then you can wash out the person's yard, so.
Perfect.
I move we adjourn.
No.
We got a motion on the floor.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Took so long to vote on it, I forgot
We
the
haven't
motion.
voted yet.
Yeah, I forgot about it. All those in favor? Aye.
Why do you think I said aye?
Thank you. I was just given that.
This is, who gave it to you?
Sally.
Oh, because it's actually not written correctly. Paragraph 2 talks about troopers instead of Vernon officers.
Who wrote it?
That was the DPS 274 article that had come up before, probably about 3 months ago. It had been talked about, that the police department wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've modified it, but.
So the police department did
I can
this.
provide comments, and the fact is that paragraph 2 shouldn't be talking about state troopers. It should be, the fact is that I agree that one or more Vernon police officers will be assigned to me.
Okay.
You know, it's not, they took a state document to modify
So
it
this is
into
the
our
only problem?
document.
And they only modified part of it again.
Bingo.
Okay.
Somebody needs to proofread the work that they do.
All right, there's another motion on the floor, or we need a new motion on the floor.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. O'Donnell,
I move that we adjourn.
I second it.
it's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Is there any discussion?
Good night.
Good night.
Hearing none,
Thank
all
you.
those in
Good to see you,
favor?
Bonnie.
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.